There's a dark side of the music business nobody wants to talk about. This video was me at the height of my touring career in the music business. I had hit songs on the radio charts, we were signed to a label, selling thousands of albums a month, playing over 150 plus paid shows a year, flying all around the world, and upgraded to first class a lot. Living the dream, right? But everything comes at a cost. Because there is a dark side to the music business when the lights are off and the music stops. I was away from my wife weeks at a time. One time I was gone on tour for a month and a half. I missed weddings, I missed birthdays, most importantly, I missed wedding anniversaries. We constantly drove through the night just to get to the show on time, hitting wolves, hitting deer, almost hitting a moose in Alaska and Newfoundland, and of course those dreaded red-eye flights. This not only took a toll on our bodies and getting sick, but some of our friends actually flipped their vans and trailer, ending up in the hospital. But you might be thinking, Chris, didn't you take a tour bus sometimes? Yeah, you mean those prisons on wheels? Give me a second and I'll get back to that. Now, don't get me wrong, we were impacting lives. We had kids come up to me saying that my music saved them from suicide or got them through a rough patch in college. One guy in Germany said my song Fighter saved his marriage and he kept on fighting for his marriage. And that's why I got into this, to share God's love, to share Jesus, and you can't put a price on that. But it was taking a toll on me personally, on my health, and on my marriage, and on my family. When you're flying home to only be home for 24 hours just to unpack and repack your bag and then you're gone again, it starts to really hit you. And I talk about this in my book, Fighter, 5 Keys to Conquering Fear and Reaching Your Dreams. I remember one time we were in China, we played Beijing and Shanghai, and there was hooker flyers put underneath our door. When I was in Japan, right when we got there, our translator, aka tour guide, the first thing he says is, hey, after the show, do you want to get drugs or do you want to get women or do you want to get both? And me and my drummer looked at each other, we're like, hey, we're Christians. And the guy says, so? And then we're like, no, dude, we really live this thing. We're really all about Jesus, bro. You see, the dark side of the music business, whether you're in the Christian or the mainstream, it doesn't matter, all right? We saw so many guys cheat on their wives, saw marriages fall apart, people getting hooked on drugs, alcohol, and it really is real. One time I had to send a guy home because he was passed out in my bathtub in my hotel, and I thought he was dead. It scared the junk out of me. It was one of the hardest things to do as a leader, but I had to make a decision. So how do you keep it together and live the dream and not a nightmare in the music business? And so I want to share that with you and how I was able to keep myself, keep my marriage together, keep me from going crazy and still doing what I love. And it's this one word, which is boundaries. We set boundaries in place. You know, my wife at the beginning was like, hey, don't be hugging other girls. Don't be putting yourselves in positions where you could cheat, right? And again, we're at the clubs, we're at bars, we're in churches. There's guys, there's girls there, right? And so one thing that I did after the show was, which I regret, but I'm also happy about because I didn't get to hang out with people, is I went straight home. I went right back to the hotel room, normally by myself, and I either listened to preaching or I worked on more music, or I went to sleep. And so I didn't get to hang out with as many people and have fun. And you know what? Not every night people are doing crazy stuff. And I could have networked with more bands, built more relationships, had good times. But I also was very concerned about my health. I was very focused on the mission. And I put these boundaries in place in my life and in my marriage to protect it. You see, a drunk man or woman will do and say things when they're drunk that they would never do when they're sober. So if I could go back, what would I change? Well, there's some tours I wouldn't take because I really believe that you can work smarter instead of working harder. There are some tours where we're gone, let's just say we played 10 shows and we were only in front of 1,000 people, like 100 people a night. Where there is this one tour where we were in front of 2,000 people in one night. It was a shorter tour, but we were in front of 10 times the amount of people, right? So instead of me slogging it out on the road, playing all these shows that weren't really all that good, looking back now, I can say, man, I should have just done these big ones. Because you got to understand, when you say yes to something else, you're saying no to something else. I actually tear up when I look at the spreadsheet of all the shows, because we keep track of all our shows, how many people came, how much were tickets, how much merch we sold, how many people were in attendance. And I look and I see how many dates I was gone. And I realize that some had a really big impact and they grew my career, and other times you're just working harder but you're not getting anywhere. You're just on the treadmill. And what I've learned now as well too is that I only get paid once for those shows, right? Or when I songwrite, when I upload a video, a music video, or I create something online, I get paid over and over and over and over again. And you might have saw that other video where I talked about, if you want to get rich, you want to get wealthy and have that lifestyle of music without ruining your marriage, ruining your life and your health, you want to do things and work on things that pay you more than once. So you do the work once, but you get paid for a lifetime. So you've got to stop trading your time for dollars. But the problem was I was signed. And so the label got the majority of the money back then until I got my records back. So now that I got my records back, I'm not forced to tour anymore. I can tour when I want, play shows when I want, right? And so this is how you want to build your business. The music industry is amazing. I wouldn't trade it for the world, the impact, the experience, getting paid to literally travel to 22 plus countries. But just know everything has a cost. You know, my wife actually used to travel with me, but she just got tired of it. But how can you set up your life and protect you, protect your mindset? The other thing that I always did is I was always listening to something. I always had audiobooks. I always had preaching. I always had inspirational stuff playing, or I had a book, right? Like we've had multiple people that I know committed suicide in the music industry, right? Because mental health stuff. I don't know exactly what was going on, but the point is, I know that for me, I've had dark thoughts. Like this isn't just the dark side of the music industry. I had dark thoughts during that time, wanting to give up, wanting to take my own life like my dad did. Some of you know that my dad committed suicide when I was 5 years old. So I don't want to walk down that same path. So how can I protect this? How can I protect this? I'm not wearing my wedding ring, but how can I protect my marriage, right? Because I didn't make a covenant with rock music or with hip hop or the music industry. I made a covenant before God with my wife. And you know what's really interesting about the music business? It's almost like a marriage out there, and you're living with these guys and gals, right? And then when you get home, a lot of the times you don't talk to them anymore. But you know who's waiting for me when I get home? Is my wife. You know who I'm going to be with her until I'm old? My wife. And so you got to understand, when you made the covenant with your husband or your wife, not with the music industry. And so I would really think about what is most important to you. I hope this video inspired you. Read my book, Fighter, 5 Keys to Conquering Fear and Reaching Your Dreams. I share about how I quit my job. I went from 5 days a week to 4 to 3, and then I finally quit my job to do this music industry and went on this crazy wild ride of 20 plus years full-time in the music business. And I wish you nothing but success.